Good evening, Des Moines. Welcome to Doc and Lefty program. My name is Lefty. You know, I forgot my own name, folks. Let me start. I'm not going to start the whole greeting over, but I'm going to start a little bit over. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are in the always lovely, always scenic, always ebullient webcast1live.com studios here in the Skywalk in downtown Des Moines. I'm here as always with my PIC, the BMOC, the DDS. Well, not a DDS. The DO, the Diostis with the mostest. Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche. Doc, how's it going?
It's going well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We are in the downtown windswept studios in Des Moines, Iowa.
Windswept. That's a good one. Yeah,
I'm telling you, there's a lot of wind out there.
It was so windy, you had to tie your hair back.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? It was so windy that I think it blew John Narciss off.
Oh, no.
Because he's supposed to join us tonight. He's not here yet. So I'm kind of...
Do we have any idea what's going on with him yet?
No, I saw him over at a restaurant on Saturday. He said he would show up.
Well...
So, because he's thinking about maybe kind of sort of running for governor occasionally.
Maybe.
We
want to let him say that, though. We don't
and say it only the way John can say it.
That's true.
Which is 1,000 words or more.
Or more.
Or more.
Well, you know, I guess we'll just kind of do what we do and talk about the things that are interesting until he's able to make it. I'm sure that he's running late, running a little bit behind. I know he's as much of an avid biker as our friend Ed Fallon. So
he might actually be on the bike.
He might, yeah. He does it in the winter, just like I know Ed is wont to do. And by the way, thank you for the to the Fallon Forum. Always appreciate following them on Tuesdays. And
appreciate that.
And I'm sure it was an interesting topic. I wasn't able to listen to it. I was coming here from work. So
well, I'm going to YouTube this one. He actually it looked like a good show, so I'm anxious to watch it here after we get done. So
good.
Anyway, well, lots of things going on in local politics, all kinds of stuff. Matt Schultz declared he was going to run.
For the
congressional seat.
Oh, he's going to switch.
What do you mean he's going to switch?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying Matt Whitaker. Matt Schultz.
No, I get it. Yeah, Matt Schultz is our Secretary of State. Yeah, he's going to run for Congress, and you know that's going to give us a pretty good field of people that are going to be in it. David Young, Washington Insider, versus Matt Schultz, who is a Tea Party darling, especially with voter registration ID issues that he won the Secretary of State-ship on. And Joe Grandinette, who we've invited on the show, and hopefully he'll be able to join us. Joe Grandinette's running. And, of course, there's rumors of just about everybody else in the world running. There's a guy, David Odom. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Have to go back to Facebook.
I'm not familiar with him.
But yeah, I'm not familiar either. But anyway, he released a press statement that says, "I'm not running," and I went, "Great, yeah,
sure." Well, and the session is in full swing.
It is in full swing. I tried to get our super duper bestest friend ever in the whole wide world besides Brad's on, Tom Shaw, to come on the.
Well, he said he wanted to do it next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and he said that maybe at the end of the month. That he wanted
that'd be good.
And if we're able to make that happen, folks, you should really tune into that because it'll be Representative Shaw and I imagine talking a lot about political correctness. He and I had a pretty lengthy discussion about just what political correctness is, what PC thugs are, and whether or not it's something to be concerned about. A while back, about a month ago, and it would be interesting to get his views here in the studio. And discuss them with him. So looking forward to that. If that's not a scheduled thing yet, I got to get back and confirm that with him. But
that'll be good.
Otherwise, so let's talk about Matt Schultz for a little bit.
All right, let's talk about it.
I mean, I don't know that you know Matt Schultz personally.
Well, actually, I do know him personally.
You do know him personally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just from around or
oh yeah. Whenever you're doing these political things, I mean, you run into people all the time. And I'm sure it's the same on the Democratic side. You have a tendency to run into the same people over and over. And when I was, he won his Secretary of State-ship. Is that the right term? Anyway, he won that.
The office. He got the office.
He got the office when I was running for Congress. And we spoke at virtually every venue. You know, I got to know him pretty good.
Well, this is my not necessarily a hot take on Matt Schultz. I don't know him. It's hard to get too worked up about much that a Secretary of State or an AG or any of these sort of second tier statewide offices, second tier to the governor, by the way. I don't want to diminish those offices. They're very important. But these second tier offices are because they're not necessarily controversial offices. And then rightly so.
That's true.
You don't want an attorney general who's controversial necessarily, although around the country we're always hearing reports on MSNBC, Fox News about these controversial guys. But we don't, here in Iowa, we don't want to have a controversial AG. We don't want to have a controversial treasurer. We don't want to have a controversial auditor, because these are political, but sort of not. They're elected positions, but they're only quasi-political. It's just sort of how we do it.
Sure.
In my opinion. I mean, but Matt Schultz has developed a reputation over the last 4 years the last 4 years of being one of the more divisive, one of the more controversial secretaries of state that we've had in a long time. And he would, I think, probably sort of welcome that analysis, that he wouldn't shy away from being considered controversial, especially by a liberal sitting in a radio station. So, and
that would be true,
right?
Because you are one of those PC thugs. I have noticed that they either wear blue or purple.
Well, I wanted to look good for you. You know.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Before you smack me in the head with the metaphorical bat.
And you're wearing a bluish kind of thing too. And the reason I say that is because Matt Schultz really has taken on this mantle of voter ID in a way that has got a lot of folks who are moderate to the left, and Republicans even, moderate Republicans to the left of the political spectrum, pretty much everybody except the Tea Party folks, a little bit riled up. And I think that that's an interesting move, especially for a guy that is in an office that's supposed to monitor these elections and do these things, and maybe you don't want to have super duper political divisiveness in that particular office. Now it sort of makes sense because he's going to run for Congress.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're going to be back right after break. We want to thank all of our sponsors. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. Our sponsors for our show, of course, is Bertrosha Associates and Lubinas Law Firm, but we also want to thank Brian Leach and Miss Kitties for keeping the studio doors open. We'll be back right after this break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Bertrosha Associates, how can I help you?
Bertrosha Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking a little bit about the newest entrant to the 3rd District congressional race, Matt Schultz, the current Secretary of State. And I imagine that he would have to resign that position to be able to run in 2014, or at least give it up to be able to do it. Because I think that he would have to be on the ballot for a Secretary of State. I think he's up for re-election in that office in 2014.
Yeah,
is he not?
In fact, I think from the Democratic side, Anderson, a fellow named, and God, I just lost it. But anyway, Anderson for Iowa. He's trying to run for Secretary of State. There's a fellow from over in my brother Joe's territory in Cedar Rapids named Pate, and he announced about 5 days ago he was going to run. Now, what I will tell you, a lot of people in the Republican Party, not only Tea Partiers and not only Christian conservatives, but even moderates, leaning right or left, like Matt Schultz quite a bit. He's a personally likable guy. whether or not you think that fraud is an issue, he said, I'm going to make sure that our elections are honest. We're going to implement some anti-fraud things. We're going to go through the voter rolls, take people that are dead and deceased off the voter rolls, and we're going to start moving forward with our fraud prevention. He has done exactly that. That has endeared him to a lot of people, and particularly people of my ilk that really are conservative, but are much more fiscally conservative rather than socially conservative. And I'm partially a social conservative, I guess. But he endears people to him simply because he says he's going to do what he says he's going to do. And that's a big deal, especially in the light of, being Romneyized this last go around. That was an unpleasant experience for most conservatives. And, we get sick and tired of people saying, well, we're conservatives and we're Christian conservatives. And yet, they come out in support of abortion, or they'll come out in support of tax hikes, things that are typically not conservative, but they claim, yes, I'm conservative. Or the one that really has been rankling me lately, and Tom Shaw as well, saying that you're for the Second Amendment, support the Second Amendment, yet have all these rules and regulations and propose rules and regulations restricting gun ownership. So I think Matt's got a pretty good shot. I know he's stirred up the left quite a bit. I know I see a meme every so often about Matt Schultz, and he's on a witch hunt and the rest of it. But he's released 13,000 people that from the voter rolls that either aren't eligible or they passed on, and he's uncovered at least several cases of fraud in there. And at the moment, but the problem is it's up to the Attorney General to prosecute.
Well, the thing, I would be interested to see what cases of fraud he's overturned, because according to Tom Miller, the current Iowa Attorney General, who's a Democrat, he hasn't really uncovered anything. And that's the issue.
And of course, Tom Miller's a Democrat.
Well, he's also the Attorney General. The Attorney General, if the Secretary of State, and I'm speaking as a lawyer here, not as a Democrat, if the Secretary of State brings the Attorney General cases to prosecute that are clear violations of Iowa law and the Iowa Constitution, you got to think that he's going to prosecute him. And Tom Miller is saying that really hasn't happened because there isn't that much. And also here's the issue with Matt. Regardless of what you think about the voter ID issue, and it's, for me as a liberal person, it's one of those things that I don't get as worked up over it, say, as I get worked up over, say, the minimum wage or unions or that, the more worker populist kind of stuff. Voter ID, boy, it's a fundamental right guaranteed by our Constitution, protected by the laws of this state. And so you'd hate to see people be disenfranchised because they're not able to procure an ID, but it's not, they're going to make it not that difficult. I don't know. I'm not getting into the merits of it necessarily. What I am saying is that if you're a Secretary of State who is making it a political issue, he wanted this. He went out and
that's what got him the election.
He went out there and kind of created this for himself without an Attorney General to kind of be on board 100%. It makes it look more political than an actual case of an actual problem in the state. Well, Iowa's never had a reputation for having dirty elections, ever.
Well, ever. And that's true. Compared to the rest of the country, Iowa has pretty straight. We talked last week about how we split up the districts.
We have a great district. We have a great district writing program. We have a great process for nominating judges. Except for the caucus in 2012, the Republican caucus 2012, and that was an aberration from Republican politics due to an incompetent Republican leadership in the Republican Party, in my opinion.
Well, and are you talking Matt Strawn? Is that the part?
I'm talking about Mr. Spiker.
Oh, Mr. Spiker. Oh, that's right, because I'm so old, my years run together. Yeah, and I would agree. Now, a little bit about Paul Pate. He's a former Iowa Secretary of State and Cedar Rapids mayor. That's tough, being a Republican mayor in Cedar Rapids. That's a tough thing to overcome that Democratic vote. So apparently he's had this before, and he's going to run again. He's on the Republican side. Now back to Matt Schultz just for a little bit, because I want to interject that so people could look him up. That's Pate, P-A-T. Matt Schultz, Lefty brings up an interesting point. Well, geez, you have an attorney general that's not fully behind. Well, Tom Miller hasn't remained the attorney general for years and years and years, despite a serious challenge from a lady named Brenna Finley, who was basically the closest thing he had to a real election in decades. So the bottom line is this guy is very, very political. But it's just like Obamacare. Here's every other Republican governor of in the union, their attorney generals are suing, except for ours. So Tom Miller's a very political person. He may say, there's not enough evidence here. Well, you have to bring it. Matt Schultz can't bring the lawsuit. Bottom line is a
lawyer can't file a lawsuit without something credible, though.
Well, yeah, but the problem is
I've done it and it's not good. I have to dismiss him. Just saying. Yeah,
well, and I understand that, but still, it's your attorney general, and the Secretary of State brought it to you, said, here is the case. And if the attorney general is really political, he's going to go, not enough. You're going to have to get more information. Well, how are you going to get more information than what you've already got? You go to, the saying, your case is only as good as your client, right? Well, but it's still up to the attorney general to at least have his own investigation into this, and he hasn't even done that. He hasn't even done that.
Yes, he has.
No,
the attorney general's office.
If he'd have done that,
they had concurrent investigations
already.
They can, there's not a problem.
Well, is one fraud case a problem? That's the case. The number I want to say is 3 cases of fraud. So is 3 fraud cases a problem?
A problem for the entire structure? Of course not.
But don't you think
they have to revamp the entire law to catch 3 people? That's the same logic that cost the state of Florida millions and millions of dollars in ridiculous drug testing for people on welfare when it showed that they actually used drugs less than folks who didn't have welfare. That's the same exact logic. We're going to throw the entire system out, redo the system because of a tiny little few amount of people.
Well, that's just this. All right. Well, we have to get back. I don't think Lefty got me on this last one on purpose, but we're going to be back right after the break. We're going to come back. We're going to probably finish up this discussion maybe in the middle during the commercial break. But you're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We'll be back right after a word from our sponsors.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you neat old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Doc was right. A lot of the times we just kiss and make up during the break. He realized that I made a good point, and we're moving on. So the next part, did you call somebody a Republican who's actually a Democrat?
I called somebody a Democrat who turns out really is a Democrat.
Good.
This Brad Anderson, he's running for Secretary of State, and his big thing is it says right in the middle, but recently too many eligible voters have been intimidated. Yeah, like Iowans intimidate people when they go to vote, especially when we do it at church. Out of our state's technology has gone dormant. I'd probably buy that. And our tax dollars have been wasted on fruitless investigations. Well, the bottom line is the law worth defending or not? We're going to get right back to, Lefty's point is, well, if you just have that many people, doing bad things, we don't need to revamp the whole thing. And in fact, we don't need to do anything about it. Well, that is crap, because you have to be able to defend a law, and voting is a privilege and an honor.
It's a right, actually.
It's
not
a right to vote. And if you have people that are abusing that right, such as the Chicago machine of yesteryear, that stuff still goes on routinely. We're
not in Iowa. We're Iowa, not Chicago.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. I mean, are 3 cases of fraud enough to go prosecute? Well, obviously.
Well, of course they. Okay, here's. But see, this is the whole problem with your argument. Of course, you prosecute the folks that you discover have committed voter fraud.
Unless you have an attorney general who isn't going to do it for political reasons.
No, you have, because what the Secretary of State did was give him a whole bunch of people and on the voter rolls that he wanted to kick off for no reason. That's what he did.
Well, a lot of these people were dead.
And he wanted to institute an entire investigation over all of this stuff using millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to do so. I mean, if we want to talk waste, fraud, and abuse, let's talk waste, fraud, and abuse. You're going to talk voter fraud. Voter election fraud is a singular case of one person doing something like voting twice. And that person, when he is caught, is prosecuted by the county prosecutor of that particular location. So I guess, this notion of this system of these dark and shadowy figures going around rigging elections in Iowa is ridiculous.
Well, but how do you explain, I mean, not necessarily in Iowa, but how do you explain in Minnesota where you're getting in,
I don't know, we're in Iowa.
More votes outside there?
We're in Iowa. So wait, so by that reasoning, it's okay for the state of Iowa to waste a whole bunch of money because the bordering states are doing bad things? I would think, hey, why don't we use ourselves as a positive example and make sure
just let it go? Just say, hey, great.
Let it go in Minnesota?
Well, hold on. There's people that are dead on the voter rolls that nobody's taking off. I said, that's part of the problem. Some of these people are dead.
They're not voting, though.
When they're dead, sometimes they vote.
How?
This is part of the thing. This is part
when
of the thing.
When they're dead, sometimes they vote.
That's right. Maybe not here in Iowa, but sometimes always. Do we want to have the evil Minnesota influence coming down here to Iowa, poisoning our ability to vote?
Now, I am all for getting prepared for the zombie apocalypse, but I didn't know that I thought I had to get a shotgun and a crossbow. I didn't realize that I had to get an ID and my social security number checked out to make sure that the zombie vote apocalypse didn't engulf me too.
Well, it's always good to come in with a stake and a shotgun whenever you're going to debate a liberal. That's for sure. That's for sure.
The next time this midterm election, I'll have moved by then, but it would be fun to go to the Francis of Assisi Church over in West Des Moines, where I voted before, just in full on road warrior regalia with a sawed-off shotgun strapped to my back. And the minute they tried to tell me to get out because I'm carrying a gun into church, I'd assert my Second Amendment rights and have you and all of our conservative friends picket for me. Only I got to imagine you'd be holding your nose to do it. But
if you're toting a gun, I'd pick it for you.
I appreciate that.
So anyway, the bottom line is voter fraud is a real issue that if there's malfeasance suspected, it needs to be investigated by the attorney general, and he hasn't done it. And that's all there is to it. So now the lefty has admitted that the attorney general has not done what he's supposed to do. We can move on to the next
voter
thing,
fraud
which is the congressional race.
Voter fraud is a crime. Systematic voter fraud is not a big deal. Go ahead.
Yeah, systematic voter. I've spoken like a true liberal.
Voter fraud's a crime. You're right. You're right. It happens. If I defraud, if I commit fraud at the voter rolls, I've committed a crime.
Yes.
Boy,
that's right.
good.
And it needs to be prosecuted.
Yes, it does.
Because this is the problem with talking to liberals. They know, we're in power. We don't care. More fraud, the better.
That's not what I said, though. I said
Frank, is that what he said?
If it's a
Frank's
crime,
nodding yes.
If it's a crime, it gets prosecuted. I'm saying that it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. Prosecute. Oh my God! No wonder you're lawyers, liberal lawyers. Anyway, we're going to go
most of us. We're take that up with the Iowa State Bar Association.
Yes, I don't know how that ever happened. So our next issue, I forgot what our next issue was. I was going to talk about the congressional races and the Senate races.
Right.
David Young, Mark Jacobs in the congressional race or the Senate race is. We got a call. Looks like. Or maybe it's just a solicitor. I don't know. Mark Jacobs has blanketed Eastern Iowa, and I mean blanketed Eastern Iowa with all these flyers and everything else. He's not making any appearances in Central Iowa. He hasn't gone to like the legislative breakfast. He hasn't done stuff like that. And the trick is I think he's really avoiding the staunchly conservative base.
Not if he's in Western Iowa.
Eastern is what I said.
Oh, you said Eastern. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. If I said Western, I misspoke.
I thought you said Western.
No,
he's
but
in
he's
Eastern
over,
Iowa.
He's
Okay.
over in Eastern Iowa. And even my brother Joe, who is a very staunch conservative Christian, is behind him. And this guy, he's not necessarily pro-abortion, but it's not going to be an issue for him. And he's, not necessarily, anti-gay marriage, which is going to create a problem for him among conservative Christians. And, he does like he's got some stances where, he's kind of questionable on the physical conservatism. And so, he's playing well to that crowd over in Eastern Iowa. My question to you about the Senate race, Braley on the Democratic side really is raising a lot of money, but he's not raising nearly the amount of money you would think being just a single candidate, being the only candidate on the Democratic side.
Well, okay. What's your question?
Well, my question is Joni Ernst is raising funds like you wouldn't believe, but the bottom line is because Bruce Braley is the only person running on the Democratic side. Who do you think? Why hasn't he raised more money? Are people just thinking the Republicans are going to self-destruct again?
Well, I mean, if you look at the field of Republican candidates, it's very, very likely on the Senate side. But I guess I would say a couple of things. Bruce Braley, fundraising is a function of how good a candidate you are and how energized your base is. Bruce Braley is going to experience a lot of drag in 2014. A lot, and I think that most Democratic analysts agree with that statement. That he's experienced a lot of drag because of Obamacare, NSA, just being a Democrat. Not to say that Democrats are going to have as big of a problem as they normally would if the Republican Party was competent in 2014, but he is experiencing that, and I think that's depressed some of his fundraising. Also, fundraising is maybe a lesser degree is a function of your opposition. So the base gets energized when they have somebody on the other side to really get ramped up about. He has a whole bunch of other people. The race hasn't coalesced down to two candidates yet, and it won't until the summer. I would expect that you would see his summer numbers spike significantly once the Democrats understood just how much money they thought they needed to pour into this race. At this point, I think that the National Committee and the Iowa Democratic Committee are looking at this saying, well, it's a pretty safe seat. Bruce Braley's pretty popular. It's a Democratic seat. Grassley's announced that he's going to run again. Iowa history is to have one Republican senator, one Democratic senator. We seem to like it that way, even before Grassley and Harkin. And we're going to let this ride for a little while. But that doesn't explain a couple other problems Bruce Braley has. The numbers. All
right, we're going to get to that right after the break. Okay. We'll be back with Doc and Lefty listening to us on webcast1live.com. I want to thank all of our sponsors for our show and for our studio. Including Polk County GOP. They're not having any fundraisers here coming up, but you can always get a hold of them. We do have the caucuses coming up next Tuesday.
That's right.
And
I suppose I should go.
Well, I forgot. I forgot all about.
I did too.
Will Rogers called me and wanted me to be a precinct captain. I forgot all about to call him back. Man, I feel bad. Anyway, PolkCountyGOP.com. You can get a hold of them 280-6438 if you would like to participate in these caucuses. We'll be back right after the break, listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the first half hour. Yeah, the first half hour we breezed through. Is the past tense of breeze bros?
Well,
No, it's
breezed.
not. We breezed through
because
it.
You're a product of public education.
It was so
yes,
are you.
There you go. Well, yeah, but
I mean,
I'm a doctor. You're a lawyer. I mean,
that sounds pretty good. that sounds pretty good.
So, but I'm glad it breezed right through it.
We did. Yeah. We got through the first half hour without too many major hiccups, except for the fact that you're wrong again. But I feel like that's more of a feature of the show than just something that you did or didn't do. No, to finish up my point about the Braley's problems, the biggest problem that's been identified that in case folks haven't heard, is that his name recognition polling numbers, well, not necessarily recognition, his poll numbers are virtually deadlocked with folks who do not poll very high in name recognition on the Republican side. Bruce Braley should be outstripping these in preliminary polls by 30, 40 points. He really should. As a guy that the state knows about, he's got a little bit of a profile in Washington. He's been there for 8 years. 8 years? No,
yeah,
8 years.
So. Yeah.
Did he get elected in 06 or was it 08?
So. I think he got elected 06.
I can't remember. See, this is why you tune in the show for the hard news and the facts. But he has a profile. He's done some things. He's been out in front on a couple of different issues, more than enough of a record for him to have a credible Senate campaign. And I think that's what everybody expected from him. What nobody expected is that 5 or 6 relatively little known people statewide, your Matt Whitakers, your Joni Ernsts, your Sam Clovises, your David Young's in the congressional race now, though.
Yeah.
But he was in the Senate race for a while. That the generic Republican would poll as well as Bruce Braley, at least early on. Now, what a lot of these Democratic analysts that are looking at this saying, these pollsters say, well, kind of the point that I made earlier, well, there's not a race yet. They're still working it out on the Republican side, and he'll get a candidate, and then the race will start to coalesce, and he'll have and when I said the summer, I meant that the race really will heat up in the summer because the Republicans will be picking candidates for the Senate next week, and then sending them to convention and getting a candidate at the end of the process. So he'll have a candidate to run against pretty soon, but until that happens, there's no way to really tell how to handicap the race. And I'm saying if you're not out early and by a big margin, then you have a lot more ground to make up than you should if you are going to keep that Senate seat in the D column, and the Democrats desperately need that seat to stay in the D column.
That's true.
I mean, you got Max Baucus taking an appointment to, where he got appointed to something. I don't remember where now. But you got all these Democrats retiring, and it's just if the Democrats want to enjoy this largesse that they've had over the last nearly 10 years, they really need to save some of these Senate seats, and it's going to be a lot more of a uphill climb than maybe they were hoping for.
Yeah, and that's true. And then I think, I don't think David Young jumping out of the Senate race is going to help him in his congressional race because, he's going to be more focused, but, it still isn't going to carry over.
Well, the Republican problem in the Senate race is the Democratic problem in the third congressional race because the Democrats don't have a eye-popping candidate on their side. And going back to Joni Ernst raising money like crazy, if the Republicans are smart enough to pick her, and who's to say that they're not, but if the Republican voters are smart enough to pick her as the candidate, man, it would be really tough for moderate Democrats to vote against her. It really, really would. Speaking of pure politics, I'm not trying to suggest, all the gender issues that come up when you have a male candidate and a female candidate, but I'm just saying this state is second to Mississippi. I shouldn't say second. There are 2 states in the union that have never elected a woman to Congress, and it's Iowa and Mississippi. And boy, it would just be really tough, I think, for a lot of moderate Democrats out there to not vote for her.
Well, and that's the male versus the female candidate is powerful, and that played out with Hillary Clinton's Senate bid.
It did
because she was struggling until that debate where and I can't remember the guy's name that did it, but he was supposed to be a Republican darling, goes over, actually walks up to her and does something that you and I could do to each other. Hey, listen, point out where this is.
Well, he got in her face.
Well, but he stood side by side, but that's how people interpreted it is here the big bad man is bullying the little woman.
It looked bad.
And it did look bad. Now, two guys can do that, but a guy doing it to a girl is not going to look good. And Bruce Braley, I mean, he's a fighter. I mean, this guy is a tough opponent. You know,
he's a good lawyer. He's been a good congressman for his district. If you are a Democrat and you think that.
Yeah, and I will agree. I don't agree with his politics, but he is, I was looking at his voting record, and of course I don't agree with it, but at least he's there to take the vote. Yep. Out of the 4 pages I've just reviewed, he hasn't missed one. So, the bottom line is if Johnny Ernst gets up there and she does well, and she keeps touting her military background, she keeps getting up there, giving the speeches, defending what she does, she should do very well if she wins the nomination.
Which I feel like it's kind of still David Young getting out makes it less of an if.
Yeah,
but you got Tea Party folks that could throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's true. But the Tea Party likes her for the most part. I mean, she got an endorsement by Kim Reynolds, which kind of hamstrung her about the conservatives on the conservative side. But you guys don't. Well, you guys, like, you're in that super duper fringy corner. Yeah, I see the PC thug coming on.
Kim Reynolds is not winning any friends on the far right.
Side.
Yeah,
no. And so the bottom line is I think Joni will come out and do just fine. The congressional race, the problem is a lot of people are just now getting their people together.
Yep.
Matt Schultz was already getting geared up to run for Secretary of State, so it's going to be an easy switch for him to do something else. Joe Grandinet, he's having trouble getting off the ground. Of course, Brad Zahn keeps getting mentioned all the time. We don't have any official word from him.
He's still thinking about it.
He's still thinking. And so, if he gets in, I know Steve Deace likes him quite a bit personally. So, that's always good to have a guy with Steve Deace's conservative credentials going, well, hey, we like this guy. So, I think that'll be good. When we come back after the break, we'll talk about some things that have not made liberal media news, but have made conservative media news. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. And without our sponsors, we wouldn't have the lights on and the cameras, and Frank over here, who does a wonderful job of not looking totally bored back there in the control room. He's nodding over there. And Polk County GOP, you can give them a call if you want to get involved with the caucuses. They're coming up next Tuesday. It'll be fun. Anyway, you're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We are here every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back after the break.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
We're crawling out from our rock right now.
We're crawling out from under the hot mic, and I don't think anybody. I will. Here's a
this
Doc.
Is one of the few times I've seen Lefty turn red on here.
Here's the Doc and Lefty fun fact. If we make it to 387 shows, I will reveal who I was talking about during the break. So, liberal news. Conservative news, Doc. They're like as if there weren't just the news. Now we've stratified them into these two polar opposite camps. What's your beef with the liberal news today?
Here's the thing. I see this thing on Fox News. Now, anybody who knows me, I'm always accused of just being a Fox News Kool-Aid drinker, and I'm not. All right, I just happen to be conservative. Fox News has a lot of conservative commentators, so I happen to read it. One of the things I read on a daily basis. along with National Geographic, MSNBC, although that one almost makes me vomit. I read different newspapers from around the world. I read the Kiev Post, Pravda, Stern, Der Spiegel, several other newspapers from around the world.
The Daily Mail.
Yeah, the Daily Mail on occasion.
A lot of good-looking women in the Daily Mail. But go ahead.
But on the internet, you don't get page 3. so I take that back. I don't read the Daily Mail.
Oh my.
Anyway,
that was a shots fired. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks.
I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez. What was I talking about?
You were talking about all the things that you read, and so you're not just right. Some conservative hack.
I was looking at Fox News, and it says Iran's president, the West has surrendered, or the U.S. has surrendered, and surrendered's in quotations. So I'm thinking, knowing how diplomat speak works, I figured, well, I better go see if he really did say surrender. So they have this tweet that says pretty much, it says this, and I may be inaccurate a little bit, but it says, we have gained what we wanted, and with this treaty, the Western powers have surrendered. That's what it says. And so I think, I wonder how everybody else is going to carry this. Well, the Stern ad carries it. The Spiegel, Der Spiegel carries it. Die Spiegel. Pravda carries it. Kiev Post doesn't carry it because they're a bunch of left-wing whack jobs run by a guy from Minnesota, of all things. And then I started looking at, MSNBC, CNN, and none of these, KCCI didn't have it. So all these left-wing papers didn't carry it at all. But if you go and look at The Guardian, they carried it. If you look at Fox, obviously they carried it. If you look at Wall Street Journal, they carried it. And it's basically, here are the Iranians going like, see, we beat the Western powers. This is how you do it. Reinforcing essentially what bin Laden has said over and over, that, if you're just persistent, these people will go away. So we get back to, one, reporting, and two, the weakness of the leadership and the inability of Democrats really to do any kind of foreign policy, ventures without completely screwing the U.S. in the process. It was very interesting seeing the different takes on it. The Russians' take was, this is Obama. The Kiev Post was, well, they didn't actually mention it, but they just said, well, we think that the Iran nuclear deal is great. The Stern said that it was another failure of yet Angela Merkel's government. And I thought to myself, that's really strange because Merkel doesn't have anything to do with Obama or the deal down there.
Well, so, they do. Germany was involved in the talks. Yeah,
but it's not like they're the ones that inked the deal. They're not like the ones that, were the go-betweens like in Oslo at that one time.
Five permanent members plus Germany. But I guess,
well, that's the UN.
You talk about these outlets carrying a tweet from the Iranian prime minister as no real authority, who is shoring up the hardliners to get behind the deal so they could stop uranium enrichment. And you say, okay, so all of these folks, were silent. I seem to remember conservatives making the argument that reporting on all of the atrocities that were going on in the Iraq and Afghanistan war would give a platform for the terrorists to spread more hate speech. And it sounds to me as if, for example, in like manner, when we don't report on every crazy thing that the North Korean government says, if Iran thinks that they won, honestly, what effect does that have on anybody else? The idea about the deal is that sanctions would snap back into place if they violate it. And so if they think they've got this great deal because they've eased decades of sanctions a little bit, that to me, once again, I shrug my shoulders, because how does that affect American credibility in the slightest bit? We don't want to respond to everything that they say, giving them a bigger platform and then making it look like they're on the same level as us, right? Isn't that what a conservative would say?
Well, but the three things about what you said. How does it affect America and our credibility? One, people that could be on the fence about us, and there are a lot of countries out there because America's got a very inconsistent is the best way foreign policy. These people that are on the fence, countries that are on the fence, are going to go like, well, hold on, the Iranians just beat them. Maybe if I just hang on.
The Iranians, the evidence of Iranians beating the Americans is the Iranians saying they won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because whenever you have your enemy saying, well, hold on, I think we just got to pull one over on them. Whenever your enemy is celebrating an agreement you guys just made with them, anybody made with them, then you got to look at yourself and go, well, hold on, how did I just get shafted? And that's part of the problem. You know, great that these sanctions snap back in, but this is like saying, well, you know what? I have a bat over here, Lefty. I'm going to go crack you in the head with it. Then I crack you in the head with it a few times, and you go, you know what? I'm going to take away your credit card. All right. And I smack you in the head with it a few more times, and you go, well, hold on. If I give you back your credit card, will you stop smacking me in the head? And I go, sure. That's the situation in Iran. They've, ignored us. The only time they've ever allowed the UN Atomic Agency inspectors in is right after we invaded Iraq. And then they went, yeah, all right, we're gonna let them in. And then just as soon as they figured out we weren't going to go after them, they're right back to, we're not going to let them in. So the problem is yeah, great, they're going to stop enriching uranium, but there's no way we have to validate that. We have no way of saying, well, they really are or they aren't. It's just based upon their word, And thank God for the Stuxnet virus, because otherwise these guys would already have the ability to make nuclear bombs. I mean, that's just it. So. That's really how it affects.
I think you're getting worked. I think you're getting worked up a lot by a tweet from a guy that thinks he got a great deal, who no one really knows because the deal hasn't happened yet, and to then impute that the rest of the world is questioning American resolve or is going to side with Iran over it is just.
It isn't just that tweet. It's the history of it. I mean, this history of not being able to follow through on our foreign policy in the Middle East goes back even to before the Lebanon bombing, where we lost 263 Marines. Mm-hmm. It goes well back to the Korean War. And that doesn't matter if you're right or left. It's just this particular time it's particularly bad because our president really doesn't have a concept of what's going on in our foreign policy. You don't even have people from the left defending his foreign policy because everybody goes, well, we're really not sure what it is, So, anyway, that's what we're going to talk about next segment. I've done burn my your anger out on that.
Well, why don't we take a break and we'll be back here in a second.
All right. We'll be
Thanks
back.
For listening. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah. We'll be right back.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for this final segment of the show. We've been talking a lot about the local races that are happening. Remember, the caucuses are next week. So make sure that you know where your polling place is. Make sure that you know where your caucus headquarters are, because I don't think they're in the same place. And get involved, everybody. I know that you'll be there. I don't think that you miss these. I don't know that I'll be there at the Democratic one.
Well, one of us has to be here to run the show.
Oh, that's right. Well, shoot.
So I don't think either one of us is going to be there.
We're not going to make the caucuses.
No, which is sad. Because
that's. You know what? Now I remember we wanted to do something that's going to take a lot more planning than just the 7 days that we remember to think about it.
Yes, because I forgot about it.
This is the level of professionalism, and
I blame Frank.
Well, our non-existent scheduler who we don't pay and isn't around ever. probably should have filled us in that, we had this to do. But so we got that going on. But anyway, get involved. The caucuses are always a good time. The off-year elections, not as many people show up, which is kind of interesting in Iowa because then you get to stand up and talk more. And I remember in 2008 at the Democratic caucus, I almost got punched by an Obama voter because I was caucusing for Hillary at the time. Because I compared him to Mitt Romney. Isn't that funny? I swear.
How in the world do you
I compared Obama to Mitt Romney because I think on
and then people wonder why Mitt lost in 2012.
It's just he remember he was the most severe conservative in that whole field. He was severely conservative. Severely. I don't know how you get to be severely conservative. But so we've been talking about that. We talked about a little bit about international politics, and I wanted to pick your brain a little bit just in the last few minutes of the show about what you've been hearing about physician retention due to the Obamacare rollout. Because what I've been hearing is not congruent. I've been hearing that a lot of physicians who had been contemplating retirement are speeding up the choice now to get out, while they were already planning on doing it, but are doing it quicker now than they normally would have. But I mean, is Iowa in danger of a physician shortage? What's the problem?
Well, anybody who tries to get in to see a physician in a timely fashion here in Iowa already knows that there's a physician shortage, particularly in the specialties. Of course, I'm a specialist, child and adolescent. We don't even have 50% of the physicians we're supposed to have. Wait lists for us are 6-9 months. Now, I posted a interesting study that came out, I think, about 6 weeks ago. And it covered 3,000 doctors, which is an amazing number considering how we hate surveys. And this survey basically said that 70% of physicians plan to retire immediately or as soon as possible. And the way they define that is within the next 5 years. So 70% of the physicians polled in this survey plan to retire or leave the practice of medicine within the next 5 years. That's an astonishing number. One of the things that people don't understand that's been happening is, there's an attrition rate for every profession. And the attrition rate for physicians is usually about 6%. And that means we just very, very slowly lose the number of physicians over and over. Now, you'll see a lot of articles that say the number of physicians have gone up. Well, that's true. The number of physicians have gone up, but it hasn't kept pace with the increase in our population. So our need is actually increased over that same period of time. And that number of attrition has gone from 6% to just over 8%. And what that means is our shortage has gotten almost 33% more severe than it was before. We have many more medical school slots and medical school students really than we've ever had in our history. And that's great news. I'm glad that people are going into the practice of medicine because it can be rewarding. Here's what the problem is going to be. There's no more residency slots than there were 10 years ago. So even though we might have, I think the number was 1.4 medical students for every residency slot. So that means 40% of these students here in the next decade are just going to be medical students with no ability to practice because they don't have a residency. So you have that issue coming up. You have a lot of people, you have a lot of physicians going to a cash-only basis. They're just not even going to participate. Either they're going to cash-only, not participating in any insurance. I think they said almost 90% of physicians that have been surveyed so far in general are not going to accept Obamacare or the exchange insurances. And the third issue is a lot of these doctors are simply going to work part-time. They're going to cut back on their load, get an hourly wage, and go do something else in the meantime. And that's a problem that we have, particularly in psychiatry. We have a lot of part-time people in psychiatry, which even though you count as a physician, you're not giving the amount of hours. So there's a lot of complications going on. And then I get back to a point I've made since 2010. Obamacare didn't fix any of the problems of the healthcare system. It simply changed who paid for it. And, there's all these problems still exist, and Obamacare doesn't do anything to do it. to resolve it. And the other problem is Obamacare doesn't actually set up any laws. I mean, there are laws in there, but basically it's a framework. And the person who determines what the regulations are is the Health and Human Services Secretary. And what she's going to do is make new regulation. And at this point, just about every month. So you're having to change all your paperwork every month. You're having to change your what qualifies for an EHR about every 6 months. So there's so many changes going on that there's not a way you can keep up with it. And so, that's what's going on with Obamacare and that stuff. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, when you get up in the morning,
when I get up in the morning,
when you get up in the morning and you're going to have to face a whole load of bad people wanting to get at the people you care about, right? I'm talking about in your professional life, you have your clients, you care about them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep.
How would you feel if suddenly somebody came in and said, yeah, instead of all this paperwork, now I have to do all that paperwork in addition to this? Would that make your job easier or harder?
Well, that's a good question, because that sort of happens to lawyers all the time. I mean,
and that's what I get at is the people that make up these rules are already used to dealing with all this.
And I'm not saying that you have that I have one particular form or whatever. I mean, the paperwork that lawyers generally have to worry about is paperwork that we generate ourselves. I mean, I'm writing all of this stuff, so it doesn't really make that much difference to me. But I was asked a question once about, if the state decided to pay me less, if the state was my employer and decided to pay me less or whatever, the way that you could conceive that it would work under a national healthcare system for doctors, that if we've had this system for years and years and years where you can make as much money as you want, and the state came in and said, no, you can't make that much money anymore. And the response I had was, well, that's already kind of how it is for me. I have a contract with the state public defender's office that if they can't handle something, then I get kicked a case every once in a while. And lots and lots of attorneys do this. It's a good way for younger attorneys to kind of get their feet wet in court. And it's also, if you are in enough counties and you get enough cases after you've been at it for a while and you have enough of a reputation, the judges trust you, that contract in and of itself can keep the lights on your office on, and then your other work that you're doing, whatever you like to do, divorces or civil law or probate, can pay for everything else, right. And you can make a really good living at it. And they always have that discretion. So for me, it's a hard comparison for me because I'm kind of at the mercy of the legislature and what everybody else wants to do.
Now, here's something that's going to affect us personally.
Uh-oh.
And I wish I'd have brought this up sooner because I blame Frank.
You buried the lead?
No, it's not a lead, but it's one of the end of the free web. Court ruling means you may soon have to pay for all the content. You know how we go on and like we pay Amazon, then we can download that. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's turning out that your internet provider can actually charge you if you download that content. So not only getting charged from Amazon, you're going to get charged from, like for me, from Mediacom. So that was struck down today. I think that was the federal court's ruling. So anyway, that may mean that, we're going to have to pay more for our show. I have to ask more from our sponsors. Prices on the internet are really going to start to go up. So anyway, one of the few times I'm going to say, gosh, I hope the government wins on this lawsuit, because they're the ones that said you can't charge for the content.
Yep. Yeah. You're the service provider.
If we can't tax, you can't charge is basically what the government's point is.
Right. Well, on a higher note, I think, I want to say to you, first of all, point out what a great guy I am for letting the last segment be about why Obamacare sucks, because I know that's near and dear to your heart. But I want to tell everybody else, not this coming Thursday in 2 days, but next Thursday is my birthday. Be thinking about what to get me. And my birthday present to you is this last segment. So...
All right. Well, great. Thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're here every Tuesday for the most part from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com. We actually have a YouTube channel. We have a what do we have? A website, docandlefty.com, just like it's on the back there, except without the apostrophe. And we hope everybody goes and looks at our old shows. Strangely enough, I was looking at our YouTube videos versus Fallon's.
Yeah.
He gets maybe 4 viewers per YouTube. We have like 12 or 15 people that go back and watch our show.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, I think, especially when we're comparing ourselves to Ed, who I think is,
top notch.
Yeah, he is. So for a liberal, so by the way, I just want everybody to know Ed rides his bike to work, to save carbon. I'm a big fan of making the earth warmer, especially up here. So just to let everybody know out there, I let my truck run a little bit extra just to offset what he's saying.
You're running your microwave at home during the show with nothing in it. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week. Go caucus and then come back and watch the YouTube channel. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.